I'm Corey Robinson, 34 years old, and the second son of Nathan Robinson, founder of Robinson Construction. Growing up, I always lived in the shadow of my golden boy brother Derek. Despite pouring my heart and soul into our family business, my father's 60th birthday became the day of my greatest disappointment. Standing there in that ballroom, I watched him hand over everything I'd worked for to Derek, who barely knew which end of a hammer to hold. But that betrayal sparked something in me. Before I tell you how I went from rejected son to industry leader, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for the moment my father realized what a massive mistake he'd made. My story begins in a small town outside of Pittsburgh where my father Nathan started Robinson Construction with nothing but a used pickup truck, a toolbox, and relentless determination. Dad grew up poor, the son of a factory worker who lost his job during layoffs in the 70s. That hardship shaped him into someone who valued security above all else. He often told us how he'd started by taking small renovation jobs, working 16-hour days, and saving every penny until he could hire his first employee. By the time I was born, Robinson Construction had grown into a respectable local contractor with 20 employees. My earliest memories include the smell of sawdust and blueprints spread across our dining room table. Our home wasn't fancy, but it was comfortable, built by my father's own hands on a piece of land he'd purchased when the company started turning real profits. My mother, Grace, was the quiet backbone of our family. A former elementary school teacher who gave up her career to support Dad's dream, she managed the books in the early days and raised Derek and me while Dad built his empire. She was gentle but firm, the perfect counterbalance to my father's intense, often intimidating presence. Derek was born 3 years before me, and from day one he was the golden child. He had Dad's confidence and charisma, with a natural ability to charm anyone he met. Even as kids, I noticed how people gravitated toward him, how easily he made friends and won approval. Derek was handsome, athletic, and quick with a joke. Everything came easily to him. I was different, more thoughtful, more technical, and infinitely more interested in the actual work of construction. By age 10, I was begging to visit job sites, studying blueprints, until I understood every line and symbol. Where Derek saw boring buildings, I saw fascinating puzzles of engineering and design. One Saturday when I was 12, Dad took me to see a commercial project they were finishing downtown. I remember how his voice swelled with pride as he walked me through the 3-story office building, explaining how they'd overcome challenges with the foundation and redesigned the support columns to open up the space. "This is what it's all about, Corey," he told me, placing his calloused hand on my shoulder. "Building something real that stands the test of time." That moment should have been the beginning of a bond, but it was one of the few times I felt truly connected to my father. Because while I was falling in love with construction, Derek was winning baseball tournaments and speech competitions, achievements that seemed to matter more to Dad. When Derek turned 16, Dad gave him a brand new sports car. When I turned 16, I got Dad's old truck, practical for hauling lumber and visiting job sites, he said. The difference in our gifts symbolized our different places in the family. Derek was meant to shine while I was meant to work. Throughout high school, Derek maintained his golden boy status. Captain of the baseball team, student body president, prom king, he collected accolades effortlessly. Meanwhile, I joined the robotics club and spent weekends working part-time at the company lumberyard, learning inventory management and material estimation. Derek rarely spoke about joining the family business. When the topic came up at dinner, he'd make vague comments about modernizing operations or taking Robinson Construction international grand visions without any understanding of the daily work involved. Dad would nod approvingly at these empty promises while overlooking my detailed questions about specific projects or construction techniques. By senior year, our paths were clearly diverging. Derek accepted a scholarship to attend Wharton for business administration, a fact my father mentioned to literally everyone we met for months. I chose State University's construction management program, graduating with honors despite Dad's lukewarm response to my acceptance letter. "Construction management is fine," he said when I showed him my scholarship offer, "but the real leaders need broader business knowledge." The implication was clear: technical expertise was subordinate to the kind of executive presence Derek naturally possessed. Still, I was determined to prove myself through results rather than charm. I spent my college summers interning at Robinson Construction, learning every aspect of the business from the ground up. I worked alongside foreman estimators, project managers, and architects, building a comprehensive understanding that no business degree could provide. The summer before my senior year, I identified a critical flaw in our scheduling system that was causing costly delays. When I presented my solution to Dad, he seemed impressed, but concluded our meeting with good thinking. Show this to Derek when he's home for Christmas. This kind of process improvement is exactly what he'll need to know when he's running things. His words stung, but they also hardened my resolve. If excellence was the only language my father understood, then I would become so indispensable that even his bias couldn't deny my value to Robinson Construction. After graduation, I joined Robinson Construction full-time while Derek finished his MBA. True to my plan, I started from the bottom as a site manager on our smallest projects. My college degree meant nothing to the seasoned foremen and tradespeople who'd been with the company for decades. I had to earn their respect through knowledge, hard work, and humility. Within 6 months, I had streamlined our material delivery schedules, reducing waste by 15% and improving on-time completion rates. My system for digital documentation of site progress saved countless hours of administrative work and improved our client communications. Dad noticed these improvements but attributed them to the natural evolution of the business rather than my specific contributions. 2 years into my tenure, I spotted an opportunity to revolutionize our bidding process. Our competitors were still using outdated methods that often resulted in costly errors. I developed a software solution that integrated material costs, labor estimates, and project timelines with remarkable accuracy. This innovation alone increased our profit margins by 8% while allowing us to submit more competitive bids. It was during the implementation of this new system that I met Amanda Taylor, an architect whose firm frequently partnered with Robinson Construction. She was brilliant, straightforward, and unimpressed by corporate politics qualities I found immediately attractive. Where others saw only blueprints, Amanda and I saw possibilities for innovation. Our professional collaboration gradually evolved into friendship and eventually romance, though we kept our relationship private at work. "You've got a vision for construction that your father doesn't quite see yet," she told me after witnessing one of Dad's dismissive responses to my ideas. "But the industry is changing, and companies that don't evolve won't survive." Her words proved prophetic when Derek finally returned MBA in hand and immediately received the title of Chief Operating Officer. Despite having zero practical experience in construction management, he was now effectively second in command with myself and other department heads reporting to him. Derek's leadership style quickly revealed his limitations. He spoke in business school jargon about synergies and market penetration while demonstrating alarming ignorance about basic construction principles. In meetings, he would interrupt experienced project managers to propose impractical ideas that showed his fundamental misunderstanding of building codes or material properties. One particular disaster stands out in my memory. We had secured a contract for a 6-story mixed-use development downtown, our largest project that year. Derek insisted on changing our supplier for structural steel to save 5% on costs, ignoring my warnings about the new supplier's history of delivery delays. Sure enough, the steel arrived 3 weeks late, and with significant quality issues. The project timeline was in jeopardy, threatening massive penalty clauses in our contract. Without telling Derek, I worked around the clock coordinating with alternative suppliers, rearranging construction sequences, and personally negotiating with the client for minor timeline adjustments. Against all odds, we completed the project with only a 1-week delay, a miracle given the circumstances. At the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Derek stood proudly next to Dad, accepting compliments for the building's quality and innovative design features that I had implemented. When a city council member specifically praised the energy-efficient systems I had insisted on, Derek smoothly replied, "At Robinson Construction, we're always thinking about the future." I caught Dad's proud smile at Derek's statement and felt a familiar ache in my chest. Later that evening, when I raised the steel supplier issue with Dad privately, his response was infuriating. "Every executive makes some mistakes early on, Corey. That's how they learn. Derek has natural leadership qualities you need to support him, instead of keeping score." My mother noticed my dejection when we gathered for Sunday dinner the following weekend. After Derek and Dad stepped outside to discuss some new marketing initiative, she gently placed her hand over mine. "You're the backbone of that company now, Corey," she said quietly. Your father doesn't see it because he's blinded by his image of what a leader should look like. Derek reminds him of himself at that age, all confidence and big dreams. But Dad was actually building something real at Derek's age, I replied. He wasn't just talking about it. Mom sighed. I know. And someday he'll realize what's right in front of him. Just don't give up before that happens. For her sake, I stayed. For 7 years, I worked tirelessly, as Derek's proposals grew increasingly disconnected from construction realities, and Dad became more invested in his golden child's vision for the company's future. I solved problems behind the scenes, maintained relationships with our most valuable clients, and slowly built a network of loyal employees who recognized where the company's true operational leadership resided. Finally, after preventing yet another of Derek's potential disasters, a bidding strategy that would have committed us to impossible timelines, Dad promoted me to operations director. It was a recognition of sorts, but still positioned me reporting to Derek, who now held the title of COO. The company had grown to over 200 employees and was doing $30 million in annual business, much of it secured and executed through systems I had designed. As Dad announced my promotion during a staff meeting, Derek clapped me on the back with manufactured enthusiasm. About time my little brother got some recognition. Now you can handle all those boring details while I focus on the big picture. Some employees exchanged knowing glances. We all understood the reality I would continue doing the work that kept Robinson Construction profitable, while Derek took the credit. For now, I accepted the arrangement, believing that eventually results would speak for themselves. What I didn't know then was that Dad's 60th birthday was approaching, and with it a decision that would change everything. Dad's 60th birthday celebration was planned as the social event of the season in our business community. Mom had rented the grand ballroom at the Westfield Hotel, inviting over 300 guests, including family employees, business associates, and local dignitaries. The invitations hinted at a special announcement to generate anticipation. In the weeks leading up to the party, I noticed increased closed-door meetings between Dad and Derek. Whenever I approached, their conversations would abruptly shift to casual topics. There was a palpable electricity in their interactions, a shared secret that excluded me. Still, I maintained optimism. After 15 years of dedicated service to Robinson Construction, 7 of those spent quietly fixing Derek's mistakes. Surely Dad had come to recognize my value. The night of the party arrived and I felt uncharacteristically nervous as Amanda and I dressed for the occasion. She looked stunning in a midnight blue dress. Her dark hair swept up elegantly. "You seem tense," she observed, as I struggled with my tie. "Everything okay?" "Dad's making some kind of announcement tonight," I explained. "Given all the private meetings with Derek lately, I'm guessing he's planning his retirement." Amanda's eyes met mine in the mirror. "And you think he might finally recognize your contributions?" "I've earned it," I said simply. "The company wouldn't be where it is today without me. Derek talks a good game, but I've been the one actually building Robinson Construction for years now." She nodded but said nothing. Just helped straighten my tie with a gentle smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The ballroom was transformed with elegant decorations in the company's blue and silver colors. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables adorned with elaborate floral arrangements. A stage had been set up at the front of the room with a podium bearing the Robinson Construction logo. A slideshow played on large screens, showing the evolution of the company from Dad's one-man operation to the regional powerhouse it had become. I felt a surge of pride seeing projects I had managed featured prominently in the recent images. My innovative designs and management systems had helped transform Robinson Construction from a traditional builder to an industry leader in commercial construction. Surely Dad recognized that. The evening progressed through dinner and several heartfelt toasts to my father's success and character. Local politicians praised his contributions to the community. Longtime employees shared stories of his leadership. Through it all, Dad sat at the head table with Mom on one side and Derek on the other, accepting the accolades with uncharacteristic humility. Finally, the moment arrived. Dad approached the podium and the room fell silent. 35 years ago, I started Robinson Construction with nothing but determination and a dream of building something that would last. He spoke about the early struggles, the risks taken, the lessons learned. He thanked Mom for her unwavering support, his voice cracking slightly with emotion. A company is only as strong as its people, he continued, and I've been blessed with the best. But a business also needs vision and leadership to grow beyond its founder. My heart began to race. This was it, the recognition I had worked so hard for. That's why tonight, as I celebrate 60 years of life, I'm announcing my transition to chairman of the board. Effective next month, I'll be stepping back from daily operations to focus on strategic direction and mentoring the next generation of leadership. The crowd applauded, and Dad raised his hand for quiet. Leading Robinson Construction into the future requires someone with bold vision, business acumen, and the charisma to inspire others. Someone who understands that construction isn't just about buildings, it's about creating legacy and community. My hands gripped the edge of the table as Dad turned toward our family table, his face beaming with pride. Derek, son, would you join me up here? The room erupted in applause as Derek rose confidently and strode to the stage. My body went numb, the sounds around me becoming distant and muffled as if I were underwater. I felt Amanda's hand cover mine, but I couldn't look at her. Ladies and gentlemen, Dad announced, his arm around Derek's shoulders. I'm proud to introduce the new Chief Executive Officer of Robinson Construction, my son, Derek Robinson. Derek stepped to the microphone, his practiced smile gleaming under the lights. Thank you, Dad, for this incredible honor and responsibility. I promise to build on your foundation and take Robinson Construction to heights we've only dreamed of. He continued with a speech clearly prepared well in advance, outlining ambitious plans for expansion, diversification, and revolutionary approaches to the construction industry. Ideas I recognized as repackaged versions of innovations I had already implemented or proposed. Of course, Derek added with a magnanimous gesture in my direction, none of this would be possible without our incredible team, including my brother Corey, who will continue to play a vital role in operations as we move forward together. The spotlight briefly shifted to me, and I managed a tight smile as cameras flashed. Inside, I felt something breaking. 15 years of dedication, innovation, and silent correction of Derek's mistakes had earned me nothing more than a patronizing acknowledgement as part of the team. I wasn't moving forward. I was being left behind. The remainder of the evening passed in a blur. I accepted congratulations meant for. Derek shook hands with business associates who assumed I must be proud of my brother, and somehow maintained my composure while feeling like my future was crumbling around me. As the party wound down, Dad finally approached me, champagne glass in hand and face flushed with celebration. Quite a night, eh? Your brother really impressed the mayor with his vision for the riverfront development. Dad, I said, quietly pulling him toward a private corner, we need to talk about this decision. His expression immediately hardened. There's nothing to discuss, Corey. The decision's been made. Without any input from me. Without even telling me in advance, I've given 15 years to this company. I've developed systems that increased our profits by millions. I've fixed countless problems that Derek created. That's exactly your problem, Dad interrupted, his voice low but intense. You're good at fixing things, at managing details. Derek has vision. He sees the big picture in a way you never have. Construction is changing, and we need someone who can lead us into new markets, new approaches. Those new approaches Derek talks about came from me. The sustainable building initiatives, the integrated project management system, the client relationship program. Those were all my innovations that he's taking credit for. Dad sighed, placing his empty glass on a nearby table. Corey, you've always been like this. Keeping score, counting every contribution like you're owed something special for just doing your job. Leadership isn't about who can manage a spreadsheet better. It's about inspiring people, making them believe in something bigger than themselves. That's what Derek does naturally. The unfairness of his assessment struck me like a physical blow. So, charm matters more than competence. Style over substance. It's not either or, son. Derek has substance too, he just presents it better than you do. He'll need your technical knowledge, of course. That's why you'll still have an important role as his right-hand man. His right-hand man, I repeated, the words bitter in my mouth. After everything I've built in this company, you expect me to happily serve as Derek's assistant. Dad's expression darkened. I expect you to be a team player and support your family. This isn't about your ego, Corey. It's about what's best for Robinson Construction. Before I could respond, he was called away by a departing dignitary, leaving me alone with the crushing weight of his dismissal. I found Amanda waiting near the exit, her eyes full of concern. "Let's go home," she said softly, taking my arm. "We'll figure this out." That night, as Amanda slept beside me, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment of my career at Robinson Construction. Every innovation dismissed, then later adopted. Every crisis quietly resolved. Every bit of credit given to Derek for work I had done. The pattern was clear and unchangeable in my father's eyes. I would always be secondary, a supporting character in the Derek Robinson success story. By morning, I had reached a decision that felt both terrifying and inevitable. It was time to stop seeking approval from someone determined not to give it. Time to build something of my own. The following Monday, I arrived at Robinson Construction headquarters earlier than usual. The building was quiet, with only the security guard and a few early rising employees present. I nodded greetings as I made my way to my office, closing the door behind me. From my briefcase, I removed the resignation letter I had written and rewritten throughout the weekend. The final version was professional and brief, stating simply that I would be leaving the company effective immediately to pursue other opportunities. No accusations, no bitterness, committed to paper, though both churned inside me. At 9 o'clock sharp, I knocked on my father's office door. "Come in," he called, not looking up from his computer as I entered. If this is about the Parkview project timeline, Derek and I decided we're pushing it back to accommodate the municipal approval process. "It's not about Parkview," I said, placing the envelope on his desk. "It's my resignation effective today." That got his attention. He looked up sharply, confusion giving way to disbelief as he processed my words. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I'm leaving Robinson Construction," I stated calmly, though my heart was racing. "I've made my decision." Dad tore open the envelope, scanned the contents, then tossed it aside. "This is ridiculous. You're having an emotional reaction to the CEO announcement. Take a few days off if you need to, but this childish tantrum stops now." "It's not a tantrum," I replied, maintaining my composure. "It's a business decision. You've made it clear where I stand in this company's future, and I've decided that future doesn't align with my goals." His face flushed with anger. "After everything I've built for this family, you'd walk away because your pride is hurt. I'm walking away because I've outgrown being Derek's cleanup crew. Because I deserve to build something where my contributions are valued." The door opened behind me, and Derek strolled in, impeccably dressed in a designer suit. "Morning, Dad." "Corey." He glanced between us, sensing the tension. "What's going on?" Dad gestured angrily at my letter. "Your brother is quitting because he didn't get the CEO position." Derek's surprise seemed genuine, followed by a calculating look I recognized all too well. "Come on, Corey. Don't be dramatic. We're family. We can work this out." "There's nothing to work out," I replied. "I've made my decision." "Where will you even go?" Derek challenged, a hint of condescension in his tone. "Starting over at 40 is a big risk." "I'm 34, Derek," I corrected him. "And risk is part of building anything worthwhile. Something Dad understood when he started this company." Dad stood abruptly. "If you walk out that door, don't expect any help from me when this venture of yours inevitably fails. Construction in this region is all about relationships, and those relationships are with Robinson Construction." I nodded, accepting the threat for what it was. "I'll clear out my office by noon." As I turned to leave, Derek called after me. "What about your equity in the company? You'll be walking away from millions in future value." I paused at the door. "Consider it my birthday gift to you, Derek. You always did like getting things you didn't earn." Word spread quickly through the office as I packed my personal belongings. Employees stopped by under various pretexts, their real purpose evident in their concerned expressions and hushed tones. Marcus, our veteran project manager who had been with the company for 20 years, closed my door after entering. "Is it true you're leaving?" It's true, I confirmed, wrapping a framed engineering award in newspaper. He shook his head slowly. This place won't be the same without you. That new inventory system you implemented saved my team countless headaches. The system will still be here, I pointed out. It's not about the system, Marcus said meaningfully. It's about having someone in leadership who actually understands what happens on job sites. He hesitated, then added, if you're starting something new, well, there are quite a few of us who might be interested in hearing about it. Throughout the morning, similar conversations repeated with key employees I had worked closely with over the years. By the time I carried the last box to my car, I had a mental list of potential recruits, experienced, talented professionals who valued competence over charisma. Amanda was waiting at our apartment when I arrived, having taken the day off from her architecture firm. Her expression was a mixture of concern and excitement. So she asked, simply, "It's done," I replied, setting down the boxes. "I'm officially unemployed for the first time since college." She crossed the room and embraced me tightly. "No, you're officially an entrepreneur. There's a difference." Her confidence bolstered mine. We spent the evening outlining plans for what would become Ridge Innovation Construction. Amanda would continue at her architecture firm, temporarily providing some financial stability while I established the new company. Our savings, combined with a small inheritance from my maternal grandfather, would provide initial capital. The following weeks were a whirlwind of activity. I secured a small business loan, leveraging my industry reputation and detailed business plan. We found an old warehouse space that could serve as both office and equipment storage with room to grow. Amanda designed renovations that transformed the industrial space into a modern, functional headquarters while preserving its character. Most importantly, I began assembling a team. Marcus was the first to join, bringing 30 years of project management experience. He was followed by Sophia Robinson, construction's top estimator, and then James, who had developed most of our technical documentation systems under my direction. Each new hire brought valuable skills and, just as importantly, shared my vision for a construction company that prioritized innovation, sustainability, and honest client relationships. 3 months after my departure from Robinson Construction, Ridge Innovation Construction officially launched with a team of 15 experienced professionals and a clear mission to revolutionize regional commercial construction through sustainable practices and cutting-edge technology integration. Our first projects were modest: a dental office renovation, a small retail space rebuild, but we executed them flawlessly, coming in under budget and ahead of schedule. Word began to spread about the new construction company led by the Robinson who actually built things. 6 months in, we secured our first significant contract, a medium-sized medical office building that had originally been slated for Robinson Construction, but changed course after the client became frustrated with Derek's vague promises and lack of technical knowledge during preliminary meetings. The project's success attracted attention throughout the industry. Our innovative approach to energy-efficient systems and sustainable materials set new standards for commercial construction in the region. Most importantly, we established a reputation for transparency and reliability qualities, increasingly lacking at Robinson Construction under Derek's leadership. Amanda eventually joined Ridge full-time as our lead architectural consultant, her expertise in sustainable design becoming a key differentiator for our proposals. Our personal relationship strengthened through the shared mission, her belief in me never wavering, even during the most challenging early days. 1 year after my departure, Ridge Innovation Construction had grown to 50 employees and was competing directly with Robinson Construction for increasingly significant projects. The company I had built from nothing was quickly becoming known as the future of construction in our region, while my father's legacy was slowly being dismantled by the very son he had chosen to preserve it. 18 months after founding Ridge Innovation Construction, I barely recognized my own life. The days of quietly fixing problems in someone else's shadow had been replaced by 18-hour workdays building something entirely mine. Our headquarters now buzzed with the energy of 75 employees, and our project board displayed contracts worth over $20 million annually. Our rapid growth came from a fundamentally different approach to construction. While Robinson Construction and other traditional builders were still focused on conventional methods and materials, Ridge had pioneered integrated smart building systems that reduced energy consumption by 30%. We had developed modular construction techniques that shortened project timelines while improving quality control. Every innovation was guided by sustainability, without compromising profitability, proving that forward-thinking construction could be both environmentally responsible and economically sound. One particular project showcased our philosophy perfectly. A 6-story office complex downtown that featured solar glass windows, rainwater reclamation systems, and modular interior walls that could be reconfigured without major project demolition. The building earned national recognition from Sustainable Architecture Monthly, which featured it on their cover with the headline, "The Future of Commercial Construction." Meanwhile, Robinson Construction was floundering under Derek's leadership. I heard through industry channels that they had lost several major clients due to missed deadlines and budget overruns. Derek's grand vision of expansion had led to the company overcommitting resources, resulting in quality control issues that damaged their once sterling reputation. James, my project technology director who had maintained friendships with former colleagues, reported that my father had been forced to return from his semi-retirement to address the growing problems. Apparently, Derek approved a bid for the Westridge development that underestimated costs by nearly $2 million, he told me during a weekly leadership meeting. Your father had to personally meet with the client to renegotiate terms and prevent them from canceling the contract outright. I took no pleasure in hearing about Robinson Construction's struggles. Despite everything, I still respected what my father had built, and many good people remained employed there. But the situation confirmed what I had known all along. Derek's charisma couldn't compensate for his fundamental lack of understanding of the construction business. Ridge's distinctive approach caught the attention of the American Construction Innovation Council, which nominated us for their annual Excellence in Sustainable Commercial Construction Award. When we won, beating out firms with decades more experience and far greater resources, the industry took notice. Trade publications featured profiles of our methods, and potential clients began approaching us rather than the other way around. The award ceremony provided an unexpected reunion. As Amanda and I navigated the reception following the awards presentation, I spotted my father across the room, standing alone with a drink in his hand. After a moment's hesitation, I approached him. "Congratulations on the award," he said stiffly before I could speak. "Quite an accomplishment for such a young company." "Thank you," I replied, searching his face for signs of the pride he had so readily shown Derek, but finding only carefully maintained neutrality. "How are things at Robinson Construction?" He took a sip from his glass before answering. "Challenging. The market is more competitive than ever." I've heard, I acknowledged, leaving unspoken the real source of their challenges. An uncomfortable silence stretched between us until he finally asked, "How did you implement the modular mechanical systems in the Parkview project?" The case study mentioned significant efficiency improvements. For the next 10 minutes, we talked pure construction technical challenges, innovative solutions, practical applications of theoretical concepts. In this realm, my father could still appreciate what I had built, even if he couldn't bring himself to acknowledge the bigger picture. Our conversation was interrupted by Derek's arrival. He had clearly not expected to see me, and his practiced smile faltered momentarily before recovering. "Well, isn't this a family reunion?" he said with forced joviality. "The award-winning brother and the founding father." Derek, I acknowledged with a nod. "Congratulations on the Westridge project. I hear it's been instructive." His smile tightened. "Every project has its challenges. Nothing we can't handle." Dad glanced between us, then excused himself to greet an old business associate, leaving Derek and me in a standoff of subtle hostility disguised as professional courtesy. "Your little startup has made quite a splash." Derek observed his tone, making startup sound like hobby. "Though I wonder how sustainable your growth really island. Taking on projects below cost to build a portfolio isn't a long-term strategy." "We haven't bid below cost on a single project," I corrected him. "We're just more efficient and innovative than companies stuck in outdated practices. Speaking of which, how's that prefabricated housing development going? The one you announced right after taking over?" Derek's expression darkened, Market conditions necessitated a reassessment of that initiative. Translation: you discovered that prefab housing requires specialized knowledge you don't have, and no one on your team was brave enough to tell you it was a bad idea from the start. You always were obsessed with details while missing the bigger picture. Derek snapped, his composure cracking. Robinson Construction has survived for 35 years and will be here long after your trendy, sustainable building fad passes. I smiled calmly. The future isn't a fad, Derek. But I understand why someone invested in the past might think so. As I walked away, I felt no satisfaction in the exchange, only a deepening conviction that I had made the right choice in forging my own path. Ridge wasn't built to compete with Robinson Construction or to prove a point to my family. It was built to create the future of construction that I had always envisioned but had never been allowed to pursue under my father's roof. The industry continued to evolve with Ridge leading the way. We pioneered the use of advanced building materials that reduced construction waste by 40%. Our project management software, developed in-house, became so effective that we considered marketing it as a standalone product to other construction firms. 9 months after the awards ceremony, the city announced its largest development project in 2 decades, a 15-acre mixed-use complex featuring retail, office space, residential units, and a central green space, all required to meet aggressive sustainability standards. The Riverside Commons project would be worth over $60 million and take 3 years to complete, a transformative opportunity for whichever firm secured the contract. When the request for proposals was released, I called an all-hands meeting at Ridge. This project represents everything we've been building toward, I told our now 100-person team. It's not just about constructing buildings, it's about creating a community space that will define our city for generations. This is our chance to demonstrate on a massive scale that construction can be both innovative and responsible. For 6 weeks, our team worked around the clock developing a proposal that incorporated every innovation we had pioneered. Amanda led the architectural vision, creating designs that maximized natural light, green space, and community interaction. Our engineers developed systems that would make Riverside Commons the most energy-efficient development in the state. The final proposal was a 300-page document that represented not just a bid but a philosophy of what construction could and should be. The day we submitted our proposal, I learned that Robinson Construction had also bid on the project, with my father returning to take a more active role in their submission. The company that had dismissed my vision was now competing against it on the largest stage our region had to offer. The construction community buzzed with speculation about which approach the city would favor: Robinson Construction's established name and traditional reliability, or Ridge Innovations' forward-thinking sustainability and technological integration. The decision would signal the direction of commercial construction in our region for years to come. As we waited for the announcement, I received an unexpected call from my mother, with whom I had maintained contact despite the rift with Dad and Derek. "Your father wants to meet with you," she said without preamble. "Privately, before the Riverside Commons decision is announced." "Why?" I asked, instantly suspicious. "He didn't say specifically," she replied, "but Corey, things aren't good at Robinson Construction. Whatever he wants to discuss, I think you should hear him out." Curiosity overcame caution, and I agreed to meet him the following evening at a quiet restaurant outside the city-neutral territory for what would prove to be a conversation that would change everything once again. The restaurant my father had chosen was an old steakhouse, where he had taken important clients throughout my childhood. Dimly lit with dark wood paneling and leather booths designed for privacy, it was a relic of an era when business deals were sealed with handshakes, over scotch, and rare steaks. Dad was already seated when I arrived, nursing what looked like bourbon on the rocks. He stood as I approached, his attempt at a smile not quite reaching his eyes. Up close, I could see how the past 18 months had aged him. New lines creased his face, and the confident posture I had grown up admiring had diminished slightly. "Thanks for coming," he said, extending his hand formally. We exchanged awkward pleasantries while ordering drinks and appetizers, carefully avoiding any meaningful topics until the waiter had departed. "Your proposal for Riverside Commons is impressive," Dad finally said, surprising me. "I reviewed it thoroughly after the city made the submissions public." "You read our 300-page proposal?" I asked, skeptically. Every word he confirmed. The integrated energy management system alone is revolutionary. Where did you develop that technology? We partnered with MIT's Sustainable Engineering Department, I explained. Caught off guard by his genuine interest, Amanda knew a professor there from her graduate work. They had the theoretical framework. We provided the practical application environment. Dad nodded thoughtfully. Smart. Very smart. He took a sip of his bourbon before continuing. Robinson Construction can't match that innovation, not anymore. We both know it. His candor was unprecedented, and I waited silently for him to continue. Derek has struggled with the operational realities of running the company. He admitted each word, seeming physically painful to speak. The Westridge development nearly bankrupted us with cost overruns. 2 other major projects are behind schedule. Our best project managers have left, many of them to join you, I might add. I never actively recruited from Robinson, I clarified. They came to us because they saw what I refused to see. He acknowledged that Derek's vision without your execution was just expensive talk. The waiter returned with our food, providing a welcome interruption to process his unexpected admission. When we were alone again, Dad leaned forward, his voice dropping to ensure privacy. I want you to come back, he stated plainly. Robinson Construction needs you. I need you. The request I had once longed to hear now felt hollow. In what capacity, I asked. As Derek's right-hand man, fixing his mistakes while he takes the credit. Dad shook his head. As co-CEO with Derek. Equal authority, equal ownership stake. You handle operations and innovation. He manages client relationships and business development. Your strengths complementing each other instead of competing. For a moment, I considered it. The symmetry had a certain appeal, the prodigal son returning to save the family legacy. But the fundamental dynamics hadn't changed. And what does Derek think of this plan, I asked. Dad's hesitation told me everything. He'll come around to see the necessity. So you haven't discussed it with him, I translated. You're hoping I'll agree, first giving you leverage to force his acceptance. This isn't about leverage, Corey. It's about saving what I built. What I always intended for both my sons to share. But that's not what you said at your birthday party, I reminded him. You made it very clear that Derek was your choice to lead the company alone. I made a mistake, he admitted, the words clearly unfamiliar in his mouth. I was wrong about what Robinson Construction needed for its future. His admission should have been satisfying. Instead, it only highlighted how thoroughly I had moved beyond seeking his approval. I appreciate the offer, I said carefully. But Ridge isn't a bargaining chip or a rebellious phase. It's the company I always wanted to build, but never could at Robinson. I'm not interested in abandoning it to rescue Derek from consequences he created. Dad's expression hardened. So, this is revenge. Watching Robinson Construction fail will satisfy some childhood grievance. This has nothing to do with revenge, I corrected him. I genuinely hope Robinson succeeds, but my future is with Ridge, not trying to recapture a past that never really existed. The Riverside Commons contract could save Robinson, he said, his tone shifting toward desperation. If you withdrew your bid, absolutely not. I interrupted, genuinely shocked. We earned our shot at that project through innovation and hard work. I won't sabotage my own company to prop up Derek's failures. The conversation deteriorated from there, with Dad alternating between appeals to family loyalty and thinly veiled threats about using his remaining industry influence against Ridge. When it became clear I wouldn't be persuaded, he paid the bill in tense silence and departed with a curt goodbye. 2 weeks later, the city announced its decision on the Riverside Commons development. The mayor personally called to inform me that Ridge Innovation Construction had been selected as the primary contractor, citing our sustainable design, innovative construction methods, and thorough project management approach as decisive factors. The news made the front page of the business section. Upstart firm beats industry veterans for landmark development. The article detailed Ridge's meteoric rise and innovative approach, contrasting it with traditional construction companies struggling to adapt to changing market demands for sustainability and technological integration. Robinson Construction was mentioned prominently as the runner-up, with quotes from Derek about being proud to participate in the competitive process and looking forward to seeing the project enhance our city. His public graciousness didn't match the private reality which I learned about through Marcus's ongoing friendships with former colleagues. Apparently, upon hearing the news, Derek had thrown a spectacular tantrum in the Robinson Construction conference room, blaming everyone from the estimating team to the mayor's office for the loss. My father had watched silently before retreating to his office, where he remained behind closed doors for the remainder of the day. I took no pleasure in their distress, but I couldn't deny feeling vindicated. The decision represented more than just a lucrative contract. It was official recognition that Ridge's approach represented the future of construction in our region. The groundbreaking ceremony for Riverside Commons was a major civic event, with city officials, community leaders, and local media in attendance. As I prepared to deliver remarks about Ridge's vision for the project, I spotted my father at the back of the audience. Our eyes met briefly before he nodded once, a gesture of acknowledgement, if not quite acceptance. 1 week into preliminary site work, Marcus requested an urgent meeting. "Someone tampered with our equipment overnight," he reported grimly. "Safety switches disabled on 2 excavators. Hydraulic lines loosened on a loader. If the morning inspection crew hadn't been thorough, we could have had serious injuries." "Vandals?" I asked, though a sinking feeling suggested otherwise. "This wasn't random destruction." Marcus shook his head. "Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing, creating dangerous conditions that would look like mechanical failures rather than sabotage. And there's more. The site security cameras were deliberately repositioned to create blind spots where the equipment was parked. We contacted the police, who investigated, but found little evidence beyond what Marcus had already identified. Without proof, I kept my suspicions private but increased security throughout the site and installed additional cameras with better coverage. 3 days later, those new cameras captured crystal clear footage of someone entering the construction trailer that housed our project plans and computer systems. The figure moved with the confidence of someone familiar with construction sites, methodically connecting a device to our main computer. When security personnel responded to the silent alarm, they apprehended the intruder, a mid-level project coordinator from Robinson Construction. Under police questioning, he admitted that he had been instructed to install spyware that would give access to our project management system, allowing someone to monitor our scheduling, supply orders, and internal communications. The coordinator claimed that Derek had personally directed the industrial espionage, promising a promotion and bonus if successful. The story broke in local media the next morning. Construction heir accused of corporate sabotage. Robinson Construction's stock price plummeted as investors reacted to the scandal. Derek issued a statement denying any knowledge of the incident, claiming the employee had misunderstood discussions about competitive research. Few believed this transparent attempt to distance himself from the crime. Clients began canceling contracts, unwilling to be associated with such unethical behavior. The district attorney's office opened an investigation into potential criminal charges against Derek personally. Meanwhile, the city conducted a special review of the Riverside Commons contract award process to ensure it hadn't been compromised, ultimately reaffirming Ridge's selection. Throughout the crisis, I maintained public professionalism, stating only that Ridge was cooperating with authorities and remained focused on delivering excellence on the Riverside Commons project. Privately, I was stunned that Derek's desperation had driven him to such extremes. One evening, as I worked late at Ridge headquarters, the security desk called to inform me that my father was in the lobby requesting to see me. Curious and cautious, I agreed to the meeting. Dad looked worse than he had at our dinner weeks earlier, haggard and diminished, the confident construction magnate replaced by an exhausted old man. "I had no knowledge of what Derek planned," he said immediately upon entering my office. "I need you to believe that." "I do," I replied truthfully. Despite our differences, I knew my father would never condone criminal activity or anything that could endanger workers. He sank heavily into a chair across from my desk. "The board has called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. They're demanding Derek's resignation and a complete leadership change. Several major lenders are threatening to call their notes due immediately unless there's new management. I'm sorry, I said, and meant it. What will you do? He looked up, his expression a mixture of resignation and determination. The only thing I can do. Step back in temporarily while we try to salvage what's left. He paused, then added, unless you've reconsidered my previous offer. I shook my head gently. My place is here at Ridge. But I'm willing to help Robinson Construction in other ways, as a colleague, not a savior. What does that mean exactly? He asked, a hint of his old sharpness returning. It means I'm prepared to offer fair terms for a strategic partnership. Ridge can subcontract certain aspects of the Riverside Commons project to Robinson. It would provide stable work while you rebuild your reputation and reorganize your leadership. Dad's pride warred visibly with practicality. A partnership rather than a rescue, he said finally. Robinson Construction, working for Ridge Innovation. With Ridge, I corrected. Different companies with different strengths collaborating where it makes sense for both. He considered this, then nodded slowly. I'd need to see the specific terms, but it might be the best option available. He stood to leave, then hesitated. For what it's worth, Corey, you've built something remarkable here. Something I should have recognized the potential for long ago. It wasn't quite an apology, but from Nathan Robinson it was as close as one might ever get. As he left, I realized that the approval I had sought for so long no longer defined me. Ridge Innovation Construction was my legacy, now built not from resentment or revenge, but from the pure vision of what construction could and should be. The following months brought dramatic changes to both companies. Robinson Construction underwent a complete leadership restructuring, with my father returning as interim CEO, while the board conducted an extensive search for new executive leadership. Derek resigned all positions and sold his ownership stake back to the company at a significantly reduced valuation, a condition of the settlement agreement that kept him from facing criminal charges. True to my word, Ridge Innovation subcontracted portions of the Riverside Commons project to Robinson Construction, focusing on areas where their experienced team could add value without compromising our innovative approach. The arrangement provided stability for Robinson's remaining employees, while allowing Ridge to maintain quality control over the overall development. The partnership created an unexpected healing process. Working together professionally, Dad and I gradually rebuilt a relationship based on mutual respect, rather than the approval-seeking dynamic that had defined our past. He began to appreciate the systems and innovations I had developed at Ridge, occasionally asking questions that revealed genuine interest rather than judgment. On a crisp fall afternoon, 6 months after the sabotage incident, Dad asked if I would walk the Riverside Commons site with him. As we toured the rapidly progressing development, he stopped at the central green space where the foundations for a community pavilion were being prepared. You know your sustainable concrete mixture is performing better than anything we've used before, he observed, kneeling to examine the foundation work. Lower carbon footprint and stronger compression strength. Best of both worlds. That's always been the goal, I replied. Finding solutions that are both practical and forward-thinking. He stood brushing dust from his hands. Your mother wants to host a family dinner next Sunday. Nothing formal. Just her, me, you, and Amanda, of course. The invitation represented another small step toward normalcy. We'll be there. Dad nodded, then added, I've been thinking about what happens with Robinson Construction long term. The board is interviewing CEO candidates, but none of them understand what made the company special in the first place. What are you considering? I asked cautiously. A merger, he said simply. Not Robinson being absorbed by Ridge, but a true integration of the two companies under a new name. Robinson Ridge Integrated Construction. Your innovations and forward-thinking approach combined with our established client base and resources. The proposal was unexpected but intriguing. What would leadership look like? You as CEO, he stated without hesitation. Me as chairman until full retirement in 3 years. The best of both teams in key positions. And Derek, I had to ask. Derek has accepted a marketing position with a firm in Chicago, Dad replied. His talents are better suited there. This would be about the future, not the past. I promised to consider the proposal and discuss it with Amanda and my leadership team. The potential benefits were significant, accelerated growth, combined resources, and a truly comprehensive approach to construction that could set new industry standards. After weeks of due diligence and negotiation, we agreed to move forward with the merger. The announcement generated extensive industry coverage. Construction rivals unite to form industry powerhouse. The combined company would have over 300 employees and annual revenue exceeding $100 million, a formidable presence in the regional construction market. The integration process was not without challenges. Cultural differences between the traditional Robinson approach and Ridge's innovative methodology created occasional friction. But the combined expertise produced remarkable results, with the Riverside Commons project becoming a showcase for what construction could achieve when forward-thinking design met experienced execution. On a personal level, my relationship with Dad evolved into something I had never experienced before. A partnership of equals. He still occasionally slipped into his old directive manner, but now he listened when I pushed back, sometimes conceding that my approach might be better. For perhaps the first time, he saw me clearly, not as the second-best son, but as a capable leader, with a vision that complemented his own. My mother observed this transformation with quiet satisfaction during our now regular family dinners. "You two are more alike than either of you ever wanted to admit," she noted one evening. "Stubborn, determined, unwilling to compromise on quality, but in different ways that finally make sense together." As for Derek, we maintained minimal contact, exchanging brief civil messages on holidays and family occasions. He seemed to have found his niche in marketing, where his charisma and presentation skills were genuine assets, rather than disguises for a lack of technical knowledge. In an unexpected twist, his departure from construction had allowed him to discover where his actual talents lay. Perhaps the healthiest outcome for everyone involved. Amanda and I married in a small ceremony 1 year after the merger. Dad gave a toast that acknowledged with surprising emotional openness how his misjudgments had ultimately led to something better than he could have envisioned. "Sometimes our greatest disappointments lead to our greatest opportunities," he said, raising his glass. "Corey, I thought I knew what Robinson Construction needed to become. I was wrong. And because of that mistake, you built something extraordinary that has now made both our visions stronger. To the future you've created that's better than the past I tried to preserve." As Robinson Ridge Integrated Construction flourished, I often reflected on the journey that had brought me here. What had begun as a painful rejection had forced me to create something entirely my own. Something that might never have existed if I had received the recognition I once desperately sought. The lessons were profound and worth sharing. First, recognition from others, even those whose approval we most desire, is ultimately less important than believing in your own vision. My father's dismissal of my contributions had been crushing, but it freed me to build something authentic rather than conforming to someone else's expectations. Second, true success isn't about proving others wrong, it's about proving yourself right. While the vindication of Ridge's approach was satisfying, the real fulfillment came from creating a company that embodied my values and vision, regardless of how it compared to Robinson Construction. Third, innovation thrives when freed from the constraints of tradition. Many of Ridge's most successful ideas had been rejected or overlooked at Robinson, simply because they challenged established practices. Sometimes building something new requires leaving behind the limitations of existing structures. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, family relationships can evolve and heal, but only when built on honesty, respect, and the willingness to acknowledge past mistakes. The merger of our companies paralleled the reconciliation of our family, not erasing the past hurts, but creating something new that honored the best of what each had to offer. As I stand now at the helm of one of the most innovative construction firms in the country, I no longer define myself as the other son or the one who wasn't chosen. Those labels belong to a past that ultimately led to a better future than I could have imagined while sitting in that ballroom watching my dreams seemingly collapse around me. Have you ever had to walk away from something secure to build something that truly reflected your values, or found that rejection opened doors to opportunities you might never have discovered otherwise? Share your story in the comments below. Sometimes our greatest setbacks lead to our most meaningful successes when we have the courage to forge our own path. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories of overcoming obstacles and building something authentic. Thank you for listening to my journey, And remember, the legacy you build yourself will always be more meaningful than the one someone else designs for you.